Paul George, hyperextended knee. Should the Sixers be concerned?
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, I'm Keith Pompey. I'm one of the co-hosts of Locked On 76ers. Thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. Well, today it's just a little special podcast in regards to Paul George injury. I'll be back later on today with Kayla Santiago to talk more about this, but I just wanted to get this up right now. You know, last night I'm watching the 76ers game. I didn't go on the trip, but I'm watching the game, and we all see what happens. You see when Paul George hyperextends his left knee in the second quarter. It looks a little scary, looks concerning. And to be honest with you, at that moment, I stopped caring about the game. The game didn't matter to me. The only thing that my focus was on is just let these guys get over it. I mean, get over the game, complete it, healthy. Because right about now, a lot of things have changed with the Sixers. Now, we don't know the severity of the injury. You hope that it's not a bad injury. But the feel good that we experienced heading into training camp, heading into media day, took a little bit of hit. You know, now at first it was about Joel Embiid. It was Joel Embiid. They're trying to ramp him up for the season. The Sixers announced on Sunday that he's not going to compete for the rest of the preseason in regards to playing in games. You know, you look at it and you say, okay, that's fine. It's not ideal, but it's something that you can deal with, right? And then all of a sudden yesterday you see where Paul George hyperextends his knee. And I'm no doctor, I'm not an expert, but I do know that it's one of those things that even yesterday, you know, they'll look at it, they'll give it further examinations today, right? And then they'll come out with a timeline. Now, from what I read, is that a mild to mid could take anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. Now, there were some people, medical people, who went to social media yesterday that said it could be about a week, right? I don't know. And I do know that athletes tend to heal quicker than normal people, right? And a lot of it has to do with the round-the-clock treatment that they receive, whatever. But if it's really bad, if he tore ligaments, and we hope that he didn't do that, right? But if something happened with his ligaments, it could be one of those things where it could be out 1 to 2 months, if not longer, right? So you look at it and you say to yourself, here we go again. I mean, honestly, here we go again. It's one of those things where, you know, the 76ers, you never know when something's about to happen, but you know it's bound to happen. And you look at it and you say to yourself, okay, so the big three could be the big one. And you also say to yourself, if this is 1 to 2 weeks, you know, 1 week, I mean, if it's 2 to 4 weeks, well, the 1 week is this final week of the preseason. So you might as well say that Paul George is on the shelf, right? You assume that he's going to be on the shelf for this week. Like, it doesn't even make any sense right now to play him again in another preseason game. Well, if it's 2 weeks, so what is it? Does that mean he's going to miss at least the first 3 games of the season? He's going to miss the October 23rd game against the Milwaukee Bucks. Then he's going to miss the 2-game road trip against the Toronto Raptors and the Indiana Pacers. So you're saying now, you're like, wow, like all this hype and hope and high expectations, it's like now we're really dealing with injuries. Now we're really like dealing with, can they stay healthy? Now, we all knew this. We all knew when Paul George came here, He's a guy like Embiid who has an extensive injury history, right? There's no denying. We all knew that. We knew that both of these guys had to be healthy in order for the Sixers to have a deep postseason run. And in order, and you had to keep them healthy. Like you had to manage them throughout the season. But now you look at it, and again, you hope everything works out for them, but that's not what you wanted to see. And for me, I'm like to the point right about now where if I'm Nick Nurse, I'm shutting Tyrese Maxey down, right? Tyrese Maxey is not, if I'm Nick Nurse, Tyrese Maxey is not playing in those final 2 preseason games. He won't play on Wednesday. He won't make the trip, or he could make the trip to cheer on teammates, but he's not going to practice. I mean, he's not going to play in Friday's or game against the Orlando Magic because, right now you got PG dealing with the hyperextended knee. You got Joel Embiid trying to ramp up. And, if we saw one thing last year, it was like how injuries derailed the season. And I'm here to tell you, like, yes, they made upgrades to the roster, but last year was crazy once Embiid went down. We saw where Maxey was like scoring 30 points, doing everything he could, and the team was still struggling, right? And when you look at this, I feel like that's a lot of pressure to put on him, So you hope and you pray that this Paul George thing isn't serious. Give it a couple weeks. You hope that it's at least at the most a 2-week deal, right? And then that way you can bring him back. But I'm not playing Maxey. Now Maxey may want to play, but if it's me, I'm not playing him. I'm resting him because let's face it, the Sixers got too much on the line right now for this season. They do. And if you lose him, you really got problems. And the thing is I hate to say this, and I hate to repeat it, but you always the Sixers are that team, like, here we go again, or what's next? Like, I've been covering this team. It's going to be my 12th season covering the 76ers. My first 2 years was the process, or first 3 years were the process, 3 or 4. And you knew about injuries was like left and right. But then came a time whenever there was always some goodwill, you knew that something was going to happen that was going to derail the season. And it just seems like, here we go again. It's the same old. Now, it's not to say that the season is going to be derailed, but again, it's one of those things where you look at it and you say to yourself, bad news again. So people tend to overreact. Hopefully this is overreaction. We will learn more today. But it didn't look good on the videos. It was one of the good thing is that he was able to walk off, right? He did go back to the locker room, get treatment. He spoke to Gina Mazzell at the Enquirer, told her he's fine. The only thing is, a lot of times when the next morning when you wake up, sometimes it could be more inflamed and things like that. So you'll see, like, right then and there, you're in the heat of the battle. I hate saying that word, heat of the battle, or phrase, because nobody was actually battling. But he's in the midst of a game. His body is hot. He's everything is going well. Typically, it takes a day after everything for you can see the swelling, or you can see a lot of other things and the inflammation, or sometimes when stuff goes down. So that's where we are. It's one of those things where you hate to see a season get derailed this early, or to have the Sixers behind the 8 ball this early over this. But I want to thank y'all for listening. Let you know I'll be back later on today with Kayla Santiago to break this down further. The Sixers are going to have media availability around 12:40, what have you. And so we'll have an update with the PG situation. Peace.